Hey everybody, it's Justin, your guide into the other side. Today I want to talk about Legends of the Mara, the role of Kodas, Kodamaras, and vessels as it pertains to Season 1 of Legends of the Mara. So let's just kind of jump right in, see what's going on. So essentially we saw, with the changing of the season, shades find their vessels, and a crop of new Mara erupts into Otherside. So we saw this with the decoupling, we saw people, decouple their other deeds into the expanded collection as well as the vessels collections. And if we keep scrolling down, we can see one thing that was interesting, shades find vessels. So during the shower, the glowing obelisk wakes the shades. So some vessels are more hospitable than others, and those that reject their shelter seekers and rupture can become corrupted. So handle them with extreme caution. So something that was, the verbiage that they use here is interesting because, with the Kodas, we understand, there are some mega Kodas, they're extremely rare. And it seems like they have something mirrored here where some of the vessels are going to be corrupted vessels. So we don't necessarily know what they're going to do, but they're probably going to be special. Again, I have no idea. So let's just keep going. So basically we have three kinds of vessels, enchanters, farmers, and hunters. So if we keep scrolling down, we can see, the Mara hatch, right? So Mara's are the abilities of these Maras derive from its vessel type. So enchanters, grant buffs and bonuses. Definitely going to be interesting when you use them to either buff farmers or buff hunters, whichever is to your playstyle. They're obviously going to be used as some type of optimization or end game. So if you already understand what your playstyle is, you're probably going to pick up an enchanter maybe in the future. Who knows? But I know a lot of you have already picked out your deeds. So if you have a bunch of resources and you want to play the farmer route, definitely interact on the Agora marketplace. Then, picking up more farmers to utilize that bandwidth that you have is probably the way to go. Farmers obviously harvest fragments from other deeds, but we also it's probably a strong assumption that you can say that they're going to farm the resources as well. And then hunters, if you're playing towards, more leaderboard oriented, more competitively, then and you don't necessarily have as many resources on your other deed, then maybe going that hunter route is the better option. They fend off violent threats to other deeds, and I do want to keep in mind that hunters will also be able to play, get specific things, from the leaderboard, from the shattered drops. Et cetera, that farmers may not have. But again, farmers can get resources and hunters. We'll get on that later. I'm getting too deep into the weeds. But, the next thing I want to talk about is the Zodiac, right? So Mara Evolution is tied to a celestial coordinate system, the Otherside Zodiac. So, the first season is the creation season. The second one is Evolution, Afterlife, and Abyss. So it seems like we have 4 seasons, and they're all related to this, celestial zodiac, and each season corresponds to 5 Otherside constellations. So that's definitely interesting. I do want to touch upon Mara Evolution. Let's just kind of jump right over to the the gaming blog. This is a great tool for anything needed related to gameplay. So just kind of go through everything. A nested vessel evolves into a Mara, right, which can be assigned to another deed while your next vessel nests. So initially, when you start playing Season 1, you're going to need nest your vessel, right? And then you'll also have an opportunity to combine your Mara with a seasonal catalyst and sediment fragment to evolve it into a Kodamara, right? And, we can kind of see this evolution here. You have your other deed in your vessel, and it's going to, hatch into a Mara. And then your Mara combined with a seasonal catalyst, which is tied to the Zodiac, plus a sediment type, will evolve it into a Kodamara. So what is a Kodamara, right? So a Kodamara is a more capable helper in the fight to defend Otherside than Maras, though their powers are greatly constrained compared to the ancient Kodas. So if you have a Koda, you definitely have an advantage. You can fight right away. But importantly, Kodamaras are a key part of the collector metagame. What they look like, their trait rarity, and their game function are all influenced by Voyager's choices and how the community as a whole leverages the ingredients to use them, right? So if you're looking for a specific playstyle, if you're looking for a specific aesthetic, there's going to be a lot of recipes in order to get an outcome that you're trying to go for. I mean, there's definitely a lot of a lot of types of catalysts, seasonal catalysts. Definitely defined by the Zodiac, and it's more fleshed out here in the Legends of the Mara website too. So when a Mara ingests a seasonal catalyst, it evolves into a Kodamara that takes on traits possessed by that catalyst, right? So nearly all catalysts possess traits that belong to one or another of the season's constellations. So only the most uncommon kind of catalysts, the hybrid catalysts, provide traits that belong to two. So that's definitely going to be interesting. That seems like something that's going to be inside of like leaderboard rewards, because they haven't necessarily disclosed like how you're going to get catalysts, seasonal catalysts, and I don't think it's going to be from farming. It makes sense that if there's rarity, it probably scales rarity to the leaderboard rarity. And we'll talk about that later. So Season 1 Creation Catalyst will be available this summer. And we can kind of see, I mean, we got all the shapes here. They all look very different. This one looks like a slug. This one looks like a booger. This one looks like a bug. But, so on and so forth. So again, if we get to sediments, fragments, which can be fed to Mars, each of your other deed has a sediment fragment, a sediment layer. Right, so if you have a farmer, you can definitely go ahead and mine this fragment, and you can use that fragment, or I guess maybe a quantity of fragments to help evolve your Maras into Kodamaras. So fragments are derived from sediment. Genesis Kodas and farmer Maras can be attached to other deeds to harvest them, and your Kodamaras traits are affected by the fragment it ingests as a Mara. So we don't necessarily know everything about these right now. We just only know, there's Biogenic Swamp, there's Chemical Goo, Rainbow Atmos, Cosmic Dream, Infinite Expanse. We just kind of know what they aesthetically look like. So maybe it pertains to the, I guess, what your Kodamaras will, look like. And again, if we actually take a look at the Mara Evolution, these are all optional. But, I would think, if you're trying to get a specific aesthetic, if you want to optimize and play towards end game, it may be preferred to have a sediment type, but it's totally up to you, right? So if we keep going down, we can see, hey, the Kodamara collection, beginning with the creation season, the Kodamara reveal themselves. How will yours transform? We can kind of see the silhouettes of what these are going to look like. Definitely look very varied, very interesting. I'm sure it's going to be something that people are looking to do, especially discover recipes and figuring out what the best ones are for whether that's enchanting, farming, hunting, etc., right? They're all going to be different. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what people come up with, especially when we discover the recipes going forward into the first season's metagame. So, also we kind of want to take, I guess we'll kind of transition into the gaming blog in depth, right? So Kodas overall hold a distinctive advantage, especially in Season 1, because they skip the nesting process, and they're already game ready for Legends of the Mara, so they're always more powerful than Kodamaras. That makes sense, right? And then the Shattered, you can deploy your Kodas, your Maras, your Kodamaras to defend Otherside from the Shattered. Mysterious Titans that awaken shortly after vessels descended, so the full extent of their power is still unknown. So sediment farming versus Battle of the Shattered. So, whether you're farming or hunting, you have a choice between either, and you're going to be able to participate in the core gameplay loops that are necessary to, get to endgame in Season 1 of Legends of the Mara, right? So you have a choice between hunting Shattered for treasure, right? And the treasure will define what it could possibly be for, people who are trying to do a lot of Shattered hunting. And, obviously what farmers are supposed to do when they farm sediment fragments, or the mixture of the two. So you can either do either or. If you have multiple other deeds, you can do a little bit more specialization, right? If you have more farmer-oriented lands with more resources, you can stick farmers on there. If you have, I guess, lands with less resources, you can throw some fighters on there, and to designate that as like a leaderboard. Leaderboard specialized land. But if you are just playing, budget tier, and you kind of want to experience everything the game has to offer, then, that's totally fine too. You can split your land, fighting Shattered and, farming at the same time, right? Because, everyone's got a different budget. You may be playing for different game play styles. Again, it's a variety that, that you can necessarily influence. So why should we farm sediment, right? A lot of people are going to be playing the game to produce the rarest Kodamaras. Whether that's aesthetic or whether that's like, whether they're powerful or not in game, I don't know. But it's lost to time. It's up to the community, the Voyagers, to experiment to determine which combinations of seasonal catalyst fragments and Maras will yield the best results. That's going to be something interesting that I'm excited for a lot of people to figure out. I definitely will be looking at that a lot. But here we also have some things about the global supply of sediment fragments. So basically, Voyagers combine their sediment fragments with their Mara. There's a capped global supply of fragments. So as farmers farm them, there's less supply and more, I guess, being held by the community. So, but once they're used, they go back into the supply. So this kind of creates a weird dynamic of supply demand that I guess. Let me read this real quick. So, in this way, the amount of sediment fragments a Voyager can collect in a given period on a specific other deed will vary based on global activity. So if there's a lot of farmers, the yield for sediment seems like it will be lower. But if there's less farmers, then if there's less people farming sediment, then that will, and more people consuming the fragments to evolve your Mara, then I guess it'll be higher. But I'm just kind of going super deep into the weeds, and we'll see how that plays out overall. So, there's definitely going to be a meta to evolve their Mars for peak performance. There's a lot of strategy here, in economics. So that's a little bit, that goes a little bit over my head. But the supply of the seasonal catalysts. So this is critical to people who also want to, evolve their Kodamara. The supply of seasonal catalysts will be limited in quantity, and each will have differing effects on each type of Mara, right? So, seasonal catalysts, whether they're common to rare, are going to affect, farmers, enchanters, and fighters differently, whether that's aesthetically or, I guess buffs or traits or et cetera, et cetera. So you'll want to proceed with caution before evolving a Mara. So they're irreversible, essentially, because you're creating a new, I guess, and you're modifying your NFT, which is very interesting. You're evolving it. So why battle the Shattered? When a Shatter is defeated, it leaves behind a treasure, right? So the more efficiently a Shatter is defeated by your team of Maras or Kodas, the more rare or exclusive the treasure. So this, okay, they haven't explicitly said seasonal catalyst will be, dropped as treasure, but that's definitely implied, especially since we have hybrid catalyst being, alluded to, especially with the Odiac up here. Only the most uncommon kinds of catalysts, the hybrid catalysts, possess traits that belong to two. Definitely very uncommon, very rare. So, they're talking about rare and exclusive treasures. Come on, that's got to be Shattered, right? So, fighters will be critical to getting Shattered rewards that drop these seasonal catalysts, right? So, farmers get the fragments, sediment fragments to evolve the Maras into Kodamaras, but fighters also have that, they'll probably get that seasonal catalyst as an also integral portion to evolving your Maras into Kodamaras. So on and so forth. We can see, the loop, I guess the Shatter drop, but let's keep going. So I do want to touch upon, the leaderboard here. The leaderboard is critical, especially when you're using your Kodas, your Maras, your Kodamaras. And I do want to touch on these items. So basically the race to defeat the Shattered as fast as possible will be tracked with a collection of treasures or other items going to each season's top contenders per environment tier. So these items, similar to treasures the Shattered leave behind upon defeat, are limited and seasonal. So that's definitely interesting. I do think it's going to be a combination of, I guess, we do touch upon it down here. Let me find it real quick. So when a Shatter is defeated, Voyagers will be rewarded with treasures called unearthed artifacts. So, whether these are, I guess, pickaxes, codefarts, or I forgot what the spellbook is called. Some are consistent across leaderboard tiers, while some have limited supply. But there are exclusive rewards for people who are the fastest, right? So first of all, from decreasing rarity from top to bottom, unearthed artifacts we know for sure. Highly implied seasonal catalysts, with probably the most rare hybrid of them being at the very top, with more common ones being, more common drops, and then probably resources as a drop as well. We can actually find this in the light paper of Otherside Wiki. So resourcing, this is a critical portion in manufacturing stuff, creating recipes, building stuff. Resources can be found on plots, traded for, or earned through play. The main gameplay loop, ultimately, in my opinion, is fighting the Shattered, because that contributes to the end game play, getting those end game rewards, getting those artifacts. More details to come. The bigger... Okay, so I don't want to talk about that. That's related to crafting buildings and stuff. But earn through play, definitely resources. So that makes sense there. So again, we have those the artifacts, the resources. We have catalysts as well. So definitely going to be integral to evolving the best Kodamara, finding what's best for end game. Whether you're farming, hunting, or doing a mixture of both. Definitely Maras, Kodas, and Kodamaras are going to be critical to the central gameplay of Season 1 of Legends of the Mara. So, if you found anything interesting, if you like this video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Hope all this stuff is making sense, and hope you learned something. But you can always find me in the Otherside Wiki Discord. I'll also be in a lot of the official Discords as well. Definitely be in the link in the description below if you want any other information related to Otherside. Definitely hit those links. Follow me on Twitter. I post about Otherside content daily. But that's all I got for you today. I want to sign off. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.